Welcome to the Four Bells, and here we are doing workout from home number 103, that's right, 3. Today, the idea of the game is to not only look at unilateral squatting strength, so that means the strength in squatting in one leg, but also trying to improve mobility in that one leg at the same time. So to get us ready for our leg day today, we are going to start off with 3 things. We are going to start off with a 30-second squat hangout. By now, as we're in a squat mobility cycle, 30 seconds should be very easy for you. From there, we get into a bootstrapper squat, where we look at squatting mechanics as well as dynamic hamstring flexibility. We'll be doing 10 reps there. And then from there, our benchmark for this cycle, we are going to be doing one of my favorite diagnostic tools for full body mobility. We're going to be doing the overhead squat for 10 reps. We're going to do these 3 things 3 times in the warm-up. Let's take a look at how they should look. So with our warm-up today, we start with a squat hangout. That's what we start off with today. So I come down into my squat hangout, and as always, we just try to assess how do the joints feel, how do the ankles feel, how do the knees feel, how do the hips feel, and can we keep ourselves in a relatively good thoracic position. So of course, you can play around with all different types of stuff. Try and work out what you need to focus on, whether it's ankles, knees, hips, and spend some time working on those. From there, after our 30-second hangout, we can seamlessly transition into the bootstrapper squat. So that means I'm going to grab hold of my toes, but if you find that the hamstrings are very tight for you, you can start at the toes, but you can also put your fingertips on your shoelaces, on your ankles, just pick a consistent spot. From here, I'm going to straighten those legs out, try to get my forehead down to my knees. From there, I'm bringing my bum down, chest high, and we're going to send those hips up, and then bring them back down again for 10 quality reps. Last but not least, we are going to get ourselves into an overhead squat. I take my PVC pipe, or my belt, or my rope, whatever it happens to be, into the crease of the hip. We move the arms out until the elbows are locked down. We bring those arms overhead, squeeze the shoulder blades. If I look up, there's my PVC pipe, wonderful. I set my feet up for my regular squat stance. I descend all the way down to the bottom of my squat. And I can pause for a second, hang out, see how that feels. And we are going to do 10 overhead squats. So it's a 30-second squat hangout, 10 bootstrappers, 10 overhead squats. We do that 3 times in the warm-up today. For today's strength piece, we are taking a look at unilateral strength for squatting patterns, and then we are throwing in an antagonist pairing, the opposing muscle group of Romanian Deadlifts today, so some nice quality hinging. So we are going to do 4 sets today. Each set is 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, split into 3 90-second segments. In our first 2 segments, we are going to be looking at split squats today. So that means I'm going to spend 90 seconds focusing on one leg, and then 90 seconds focusing on the next leg. When it comes to our split squats today, we're going to be doing them at a 2-2-x1 tempo, which means 2 seconds on the way down, a 2-second pause at the bottom to really emphasize that mobility piece, and then we're going to fire it up with a 1-second rest before going into the next rep. So that means I'm going to spend 45 seconds doing one leg. I then rest for 45 seconds. We're going to do 45 seconds on the next leg. We then rest for 45 seconds before I come into Romanian deadlifts. So with our Romanian deadlifts today, slightly more of a muscular endurance rep range today. We're trying to get a lot of volume in for the posterior chain. With our Romanian deadlifts, we want to think to ourselves, start light and then try and build as we go across the 5 sets. So let's take a look at both of these movements today. When it comes to the split squat, it's a fantastic exercise to address any kind of unilateral imbalances or bilateral deficits, which is a very fancy way of saying, do I have one leg stronger than the other? So what we're going to look at today with our split squats is not only trying to develop the quadricep, the thigh muscles, but also trying to improve mobility, looking specifically at knee flexion, my ability to close the knee joint, as well as ankle dorsiflexion, my ability to get my knee over my toes. So there's 3 levels to the split squat in the way you should look at them at home. We're going to start with the front foot slightly elevated. And as always, how do I set up the back foot? I step back as if I was going to be in a reverse lunge. From here, weight shifts forwards, and I'm trying to keep the heel down as I really drive that shin forwards and try to get that knee over the toes. Of course, if the heel comes up a little bit, not the end of the world, but that's not ideal. We want to try and keep that front heel down. If that's easy for you, the next option is get rid of the step or the plate. Again, we set up that back foot, I drive the shin forwards, and we are going to then do our bodyweight split squat. And if that is easy for you, the next option available is grabbing some dumbbells, putting them by your side, And that way we can now look at the tempo. So it should be 1, 2, 1, 2, and then press back up, explode up. 1, 2, 1, 2, and then press back up. So we're going to do 45 seconds across those two 90-second intervals each. Start with the level that works best for you. If you can make it a little bit more challenging and a little bit more heavier over the 4 sets, you should. With our Romanian deadlifts today, we're doing 15 reps. And whether you're using a barbell, dumbbells, kettlebells, what we're looking for is that beautiful hinging pattern. So keeping the chest up, I'm then going to lead with the hips. So I push the hips back, trying to get that big stretch through the hamstring as I'm trying to come down to close to parallel and then a big hip drive forwards. So of course, if you're super flexible through the hamstrings, you may find that when you do your Romanian deadlifts, you're able to hit the floor. But that is not the aim of the game. We're just looking to load the hamstring in hip extension, and squeeze the glutes to the top, and work the whole posterior chain. Today's conditioning piece is 3 rounds of this 5-minute block. So in each 5-minute block, we split it up into 5 1-minute stations. So at every station, what we're trying to do is get as much work done as possible. I would say it says a minute, but I'd probably say at about 50 seconds, we want to be transitioning on to the next exercise. So give yourself approximately 10 seconds to stop what you're doing and get ready to do the next thing. So we're going to start with our first minute is going to be kettlebell swings. We're going to be doing those consecutively for that minute, 50 seconds. From there into our second minute, we're going to be doing walking lunges. If you're in a small space, you can just do lunges in place. If you can, we're going to do walking lunges. From there, we're going to do exactly the same thing we did in the warm-up today, the overhead squat, really trying to test that mobility as well as endurance for the legs. And then number 4, we're going to look at some abdominal work. We're going to look at some elbow planking. And then our 5th minute is everyone's favorite minute. We are going to rest. Yay! So we are going to do these 5 things 3 times for our conditioning piece today. Let's have a look at them. So we start with the kettlebell swing. So very similar mechanical position to the Romanian deadlift. The only difference is we're not trying to put a massive stretch on the hamstring. We're not trying to bring the torso close to parallel. So in our kettlebell swing, I want to think about that hip hinge. So I'm really looking for like 45 degrees in the thigh, 45 degrees with the torso, and then we're looking for that explosive hip extension forwards. So the top of every swing, 3 things should be engaged: glutes engaged, quads engaged, abs engaged. We pull the kettlebell in, and then we snap the hip forwards, pushing those hips back, big explosive hip drive forwards, and we're going to do just under a minute of kettlebell swings. Walking lunges, I mean, if you've got space to do a walking lunge, that'd be fantastic. As always, we want to keep our feet on train tracks, torso nice and upright, and of course, if we can, we're going to do walking lunges across our space. And you can go forwards, you can go backwards, you can do whatever works best for you. But of course, if you don't have enough space, you can just do lunges in place of any variety you please, whatever makes you feel good. Either way, it's approximately 50 seconds of lunges. With the overhead squat, you can either stay with a PVC pipe or something very light. But probably the heaviest I go is just an empty barbell. So if you have an empty barbell available, feel free to use it. But more commonly in everyone's home, everyone's got a broomstick, so feel free to use that. As always, how do we set up? PVC pipe in the crease of the hip. We extend the arms out until the elbows are locked out, and then we bring it overhead. All I'm trying to do is get the deepest, most delicious overhead squat I can, and we are going to move consistently for 50 seconds. So with our elbow plank, very simple. We have the elbows directly below the shoulders. Personally, I like to create a little plank pyramid. I like to bring my hands together into a little triangle formation. But if that doesn't work for you, whatever makes you feel fine. Being the Sphinx is perfectly fine too. From here, I'm going to dig those toes into the floor. I'm going to come up into that plank position. So I'm trying to tuck my tail between my legs, squeeze my butt, bring my pelvis up towards my elbows, bring my elbows down towards my pelvis, and brace as hard as possible for that full minute, because next is delightful rest time. And rest time is everybody's favorite. So today in our conditioning piece, 3 rounds, 1 minute, or 50 seconds of kettlebell swings, a minute of walking lunges, a minute of overhead squats, a minute elbow plank, a minute rest. We're doing those 5 things 3 times. That was Workout from Home 103. Let us know how you get on.